Hi, Janice.
Anthony, how are you?
I said your name Janice very clearly because the Facebook auto captioning feature has been calling you Dennis. So no,
What?
your name is
Okay.
Janice.
Well, I don't really look like I should have Dennis as my name, but I've been called worse.
What are we talking about today?
We are talking about 6 common myths about estate planning. So this is by Rachel Hartman, published July 2018. Has some good information in it to help you get started with the estate planning and thinking about it.
And this is from the usnews.com, is that right?
I believe so, yes.
Very good.
So she talks about it might not be on your to-do list, but in all actuality, we need to get it done. She breaks it down into bullet points. So the first one she talks about is that a will can oversee the distribution of all my assets. Most people think, I need a will because I have to figure out what to do with my funds. So the myth is that a will can oversee the distribution of all my assets. But you and I know that that's a myth because when you have some forms like life insurance, et cetera, that has a beneficiary already named, the will does not distribute that. Maybe you could help with that a little bit.
Sure. This is a very common misconception, so this is a good one to point out. A lot of folks think their will overrides any beneficiary designations or joint accounts. But no, that's not the case. The will only controls things that are in your name only. And I'll give you an example. If you die or if you pass away with a bank account worth $100,000 and a life insurance policy that's worth another $100,000, you might think, okay, I have $200,000 to my name, so I'll write a will that says half to my son and half to my daughter. They each get $100,000. But if the life insurance policy has a beneficiary designation on it, to your son, let's say, then at the end of the day, the will that says half to each of my children will only control the $100,000 in the bank account. So it'll actually turn out that your son will, in effect, get $150,000, the $100,000 life insurance policy, and $50,000 from the bank account, and your daughter will only get $50,000. That's a huge difference from what you intended. And that's why it's really important to understand that the will only controls things that don't have a beneficiary designation, a joint tenant, or something like that.
That makes a lot of sense. And I know that we've talked about this before, and we'll talk about it again in this article, but it's important to have somebody draw up your estate plan that knows these factors, that can account for all of this and help you make good decisions.
Absolutely. It's the reason you work with a professional is not because they have forms. I mean, that's just a small part of all this. It's sort of seeing the whole landscape. Yeah.
Correct. Like you said, you could probably have sorted that problem by knowing that the son would be getting the beneficiary designation from the life insurance. So that is definitely true. The second one is once I have my assets in order, I'm all set. I'm all done. That's the misconception. While that might be true with the financial aspect of it, what the author is talking about here is your health and state of mind. There's more than just accounting for your finances, but what happens if you end up in a situation where you lose your health, your declining health, your state of mind? Who's going to make the decisions for you? So they talk about in here as power of attorneys and living wills to help account for those other aspects that a will doesn't cover.
Oh, based on that header, I thought this was going to go in a different direction about needing to constantly update not constantly, but periodically update your estate plan. But so it looks like she's going in a different direction, talking about how your estate planning is not just about your money. It's about your healthcare decisions, what happens if you're incapacitated, and your, funeral arrangements and remains, things like that. Is that right, Janice?
Correct. She's talking about just the other aspects of it. Like this is not just a small package of a will, but maybe an estate planning as a whole, that there's more parts to it. She does talk later about being able to change things. So the second or the third list here is that I can get around to drawing up a will better when I'm older. That's a myth. Well, you may be in a situation right now to do it, depending on what your situation is, or maybe when you're a little bit older. So I maybe agree, or maybe not so agree. It depends on your situation right this moment. Of course, you don't want to wait until it's too late. But you want to make sure you're in a position that, now is a good time. I have children and I have the accounts. I need to make sure everything's in order. So don't wait. What did you get from that one?
Yeah, I mean, if you're just out of college, maybe you don't need a will. But I'd say that trigger the line in the sand is once you have kids. I mean,
Yes.
just to name guardians and to make sure that those types of things are set up in case anything were to happen to you before your kids reach adulthood. That right there is a trigger where you need to get something in place. Yeah.
Absolutely. That's definitely important. Then the next one, she says, if I make an estate plan, I won't be able to change it. Well, we know that's not correct. Things change. Things happen. Life happens. Divorce happens. Money happens up and down, depending on what it is. You can change your estate plan. Why don't you talk about that? Because I know that you suggest a certain timeline for that to revisit it, correct?
Absolutely. So my sort of rule of thumb is to at least take a look at your situation every 4 years and just think presidential cycles or Olympic cycles, whatever, matches your particular circumstances. And that's usually that doesn't necessarily mean you need to update your will every 4 years, but just take a look. Do you have new kids? Do you have significant changes to your assets? Are the people who you've nominated as, your executor or guardians for your kids, is it still appropriate? Maybe you thought your parents would be the best guardians for your kids, but maybe their health has changed over those past 4 years or somebody's moved. Just think about everything at that 4 year interval.
Absolutely. And it takes just a few minutes. Just read it over, say to yourself, does this still work? And then, if you need to talk to somebody and ask a few questions, the person who helped you draw it up probably will help you with that. Which, speaking of, the next one is, it's too complicated to set up. Yes, the estate plan itself, it really does seem like it is complicated. However, if you have someone who's helping you, that's a professional that does this as their living and their career, and they've done this, you're going to be okay. They're going to help you through it. You meet or talk a few times, and you're going to have a really great plan. So we always say, go with a professional. It's not going to be complicated. They'll help.
This is accurate. Estate planning is complicated, and I think it's useful for folks to think of it not in terms of a zero sum. I have a rock solid estate plan or I don't, but rather think about it as playing the odds. You want to increase the odds that your family will have a smooth transition, and that doesn't guarantee. Because from the time you draw up your plan to the moment you pass away, that's kind of unknowable in most cases. So your assets will change, your wishes, your circumstances might tweak a little bit, but you'll be a lot closer to making it smooth for your family and an accurate reflection of your wishes than if you did nothing at all, right?
Absolutely. And you get with a professional, they're going to help you. And then lastly, she said that estate planning is most important for the super rich. Well, it is really important for the super rich. It's important for everyone, however. She takes a quote that says, people often don't know enough about what they have and their true financial value. So you may think, I don't have anything. I don't need a will. That might not necessarily be the case. Like you said with children, you may not look at your finances and think you have a big pot of money, but you have children to care for. And that's important. So I don't think that she's right. Estate planning is not most important for the super rich. It's important for everyone.
And just in terms of the math, let's talk about, I'll give you an example. Let's say due to a lack of planning, you've caused maybe $25,000 in legal fees and court fees and headaches after your death, right? For whatever reason. Let's say it's because you neglected to, take care of a certain family member. Let's just leave it at that. If you are Warren Buffett or Bill Gates, $25,000 means nothing to your estate as a percentage, right? But if you're one of us, I guess, I don't know how to put it, or let's say your estate is, either $100,000 or even $1 million, $25,000 is a lot of money.
Yeah.
So, I think it's more important to avoid that cost at the more middle or even upper class levels than it is for the super rich.
That's a great point. I didn't think of it that way. But definitely important for everyone to have an estate plan, like we had talked about before, when it's the right time and with a professional.
Cool. So, Janice, let's again thank the usnews.com and Rachel Hartman for this great article. And I'm ready to sign off. How about you?
Absolutely. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thanks. Take care.